Is this happening to you? Then you're in the right place for video game training. Hello and welcome along, my name is Azzavhar or Azza, and in this video we're going to take a look at how to defeat Gehrman the First Hunter. Oh, how times have changed since the first hunt. We've got a few new tricks up our sleeve to take this guy out. We'll take a look at these in this video. There's no straightforward cheese for this fight, but there's a lot of tips and tricks that we can apply with video game training to make this fight a little bit smoother. If you want to be an absolute legend and support the channel, then make sure to hit that like and subscribe button. Now let's get into the video. First of all, I'll show you our character and our setup. Our character is level 55 with 39 strength and 26 skill. We'll be using the saw cleaver, which is leveled up to +9, and we've got some attack up blood gems, which are 18%, 15% and 2.7%. We'll also be using the basic hunter pistol to get some parries, but you can use whatever parry weapon you want to. We'll also be using bolt paper and beast blood pellets, which will increase our damage output slightly. You don't have to have this exact setup, but I'm just showing you what we're working with for this video. If possible, I'd also recommend going into this fight with 20 blood vials and also 20 silver bullets. At the start of the fight, apply the bolt paper and the beast blood pellet. In the first phase of this fight, he'll start by using his scythe, and there's a few different attack combinations that he can do with this. Primarily, we're looking for one specific attack that we can always parry, and this specific attack is the charged scythe slash. You'll see this one come in when Gehrman stands still, and then puts his scythe behind his back for about 2 or 3 seconds, and then do a slash towards you. And this charged attack doesn't really have much of a range. What we need to do with this is just back up a little bit, so there's a bit of distance between you and Gehrman. The distance that you need to move back is usually about 1 dash backwards, and then try to time your pistol shot just as he finishes that first swipe. This will pretty much guarantee a stagger every single time. Whilst he's staggered, move towards him or dash forward towards him and then press R1 to get the Visceral Attack. With my character's setup, this usually does 1168 damage, and what we're aiming to do in this first phase is to do that 3 times, which should take us to round about 3504 damage. Just be aware with this charged Scythe attack, there's also a second variant of this where it doesn't charge up for quite as long, and if you see this one, we don't want to try and parry this one. Just move backwards to avoid the attack. The next attack that we're going to cover is the Scythe Hook. This is the one where Gehrman extends his scythe towards your player's neck and tries to hook you and pull you in towards him. If he does get you with this first hook, he'll follow it up with the second one, so be careful because you can get hit twice with this. If you do get caught with the first hook, if you dodge fast enough, you can sometimes move out the way to avoid the second attack. What we want to do with this Scythe Hook is to dodge backwards as soon as you see it coming towards you, and then shoot your pistol instantly. Most of the time this will stagger Gehrman and give you another chance for a Visceral Attack. This particular attack is not always as guaranteed as the charged Scythe attack, but it is still pretty good and it does work a lot of the time. A few other attacks that you can do with his scythe. One is the standard Scythe Attack, and you can choose to do a combo of 1, 2 or 3 attacks. You can just dodge through all of these attacks. They're usually in the same rhythm, so it's kind of like a 1, 2, 3 rhythm. You'll get used to dodging through those with a bit of practice. You can also do an attack where he jumps up in the air and then slices as he's on his way down. This one's quite tricky to dodge because it's got a massive area of effect. It's kind of like a wide conal attack in front of him. With this one, you just want to stay away from the conal area in front of him. So either just run really far away, or if you're quite close when he does the attack, you can try and make your way around to his back to avoid the frontal cone. But it is still quite wide, and that scythe does reach around quite far, so you've got to be directly behind him and back a little bit to make sure you avoid the cone. Just a little bit of information about how Gehrman walks around the arena here. If you ever find yourself in a bit of a pickle and you need to heal up, you can actually just create some space between you and Gehrman, and he'll just kind of slowly walk towards you through the arena. So if you ever need to reapply some bolt paper or some beast blood pellets, just run away to create some space and you'll be safe to use the items. Now for the next phase, which is the sword and the blunderbuss. With my character's setup, if I do 3 visceral attacks, it does about 3500 damage, and at this point he'll still have the scythe out, so the next time that I hit him, or the next time that I do a visceral attack, it will push him into his sword and blunderbuss phase. So I think the transition point is somewhere around 3550 damage. So just keep in mind, if you do around that much damage, he's going to switch to his sword and blunderbuss. There's a few different ways that we can approach this section. The first way that we can approach it is to try and skip the sword and blunderbuss phase completely. And the way that I would do this is try to lure Gehrman towards a wall. Usually a good place to do this is the gates of the arena, because the walls kind of close in a little bit near the gates of the arena. Just keep in mind, before pushing him into this next phase, you'll want to have a fresh bolt paper and fresh beast blood pellet applied. So you may need to just kite him around the arena a little bit until you can reapply your bolt paper and your beast blood pellet. After you've lured him towards a wall or towards this gate area, you'll want to try and set up the next visceral attack so that his back is towards a wall. What this means is that when you deliver the visceral and he takes the knockback from that attack, he'll be pushed back into the wall and he'll still be quite close to you. And what we're trying to achieve here is to push him up against the wall and block him in, and then keep attacking him as much as you can do. Because he's blocked up against a wall, it means that he can't dodge backwards and escape us. A lot of the time this will push his HP down to below half, which will then trigger his next phase, and you've skipped the sword and blunderbuss phase. If that doesn't work, don't worry, we've got a different approach that we can use for this bit. Another way that we can battle him in this section is to create a little bit of distance between you and him, so that when you approach him, he will either roll towards you or slide attack towards you. And what you can do is, as you're locked onto him and he's coming towards you with that roll or that forward slide, you can roll forward and right. And you kind of end up on his side a little bit. As you're on Gehrman's side, you can sometimes get him stuck, turning around trying to track you. So you can hit him once on his side and then keep walking around him, hit him once again, keep walking around him and hit him once again. You can actually repeat this pattern quite a few times. Sometimes he'll be aware of what you're doing and he'll try to break out of it. If he has realized what you're doing, he'll usually backstep. If he does backstep, you should also backstep and create some distance between you and him. Try and get yourself to his side again to try and get him stuck in that turnaround tracking pattern again. You can rinse and repeat this as many times as you need to. Another way to do this, a slightly less complicated way to do this, is when you see him slide in towards you or roll in towards you, you can just dodge forward in towards him, attack one time, and then get out of there. That's a nice safe and consistent way to deal with this section. So take your pick and do whatever works for you. When he's in his sword and blunderbuss phase, you can do a multi-slash combo which usually finishes up with a blunderbuss attack. So if you see him doing a multi-slash combo with this blade, you can expect a blunderbuss attack at the end of it. And usually dodging to the left, right or forwards through it will allow you to avoid that blunderbuss. When you get him down to below half HP, he'll move into his next phase and use the art of quickening. You'll see this when he does his scream and then does a power up animation. He'll also have like a blue fog around him. What I do is try to use this opportunity to get some extra damage. At this point I'll usually be quite close to him as I'm going to push him into his next phase. When you push him below half HP, look out for him doing this power up animation and try to move yourself behind him. Whilst he's doing this, I can usually get in about 2 or 3 attacks. Then you want to do a charged R2 into his back. Try to time this charged hit as he finishes doing his scream. Listen out for his scream, that's usually about 1 or 2 seconds long. With a little bit of practice you'll get the timing on this. If you do get this charged R2 in his back timed correctly, it will be an extra stagger and an extra visceral attack. So make sure to press R1 in his back to get the visceral if you do get the stagger. At this point his HP will already be pretty low, so there's not too much left to do in this fight. At this point in the fight there's a couple of extra moves that he's going to throw into the mix. One is a charged arcane explosion, where he'll stand still and hold his arms out. He'll charge up for 6 seconds and then explode on the 7th second. So what you can do is run in and get as many attacks in as you can do, but just make sure to time it that you can dodge backwards at least 2 times before he explodes. If you do get caught in this explosion, it's pretty much a one-shot kill because it does a massive amount of damage, so just be very careful to make sure you can get out of there before he explodes. Or you could also use this time to use items, so if you need to heal up or you need to apply some bolt paper or some beast blood pellets, then this would be a great time to do this. In this last phase of the fight, he'll choose to fight either with his scythe or the sword and blunderbuss. Essentially both of these weapon sets are quite similar to what we've already covered, but there are a couple of things that do get added in here. So if he's wielding his scythe, you can now do an aerial attack from above. So if he does have his scythe out and he jumps quite high up into the air, he'll charge up for a second or 2 and then send an explosion down to the ground. This explosion is massively powerful, so be very careful of this. Make sure to run away from Gehrman if you do see this. Keep dodging and running away as far as you can do, because this thing can track you very far across the battlefield. So even if you think you're really safe, just keep dodging and running away to make sure that you are safe. There's also another additional attack with the scythe in this phase. It usually happens if there's a little bit of distance between you and Gehrman. He'll do a horizontal slide attack towards you, and this does massive damage, so be very careful of this. It pretty much just always one-shot killed me if I did get hit by this. so just keep that in mind. Moving on to the sword and blunderbuss in this final phase. He's now got an instant stagger shot. You'll be able to see him getting ready for this shot because he kind of prepares the gun a little bit, and there's usually about a 1 second delay before the shot actually fires. If you do get hit with this, it will stagger you, and if he's close to you and he can get to you before you can get out of the stagger, he will do a lot of damage to you, so be very careful of this. Just be aware that in this final phase, he can switch between his sword and his scythe very fast, and sometimes that transformation will also be an attack. There's been times where he's transformed from the blade to the scythe, and whilst he's done that, he's actually one-shotted me, so just be aware of that and keep it in mind. With enough practice, time and patience, you'll have this fight mastered in no time. I do a lot of video game content on other platforms as well, so it'd be really cool if you want to connect with me on those. My username across all main platforms is Azzavhar,